there are going to be people killed in the year of our Lord 2025 because the Trump administration paused the OSHA heat standard from the Biden administration. And it didn't have to be that way.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Let's get to Boss Watch, folks. Over in Tennessee, the Chattanooga Times Free Press has an article about a Chattanooga-based logistics company facing a lawsuit by a former employee alleging unpaid overtime. In a federal complaint on September 12th, Chattanooga resident Philip Dennis alleged that Trident Transport did not pay him overtime when he worked more than 40 hours in a week. For example, Dennis estimated that he worked 56 hours in one week and 55 hours in another week, all without overtime pay. Dennis was employed as an account manager and a sales manager in Chattanooga from September 2021 to October 2023. The law firm representing him is pursuing the Trident case as a collective action lawsuit under federal law. So that's an interesting case. You know, the Fair Labor Standards Act creates exemptions for overtime requirements, and those exemptions are if you have to meet two things at once, right? So you have to both be making more money than, I think it's like $50,000 in a year now, something like that. If you are making over $50,000 in a year and you have some level of executive control over your work, then you can be exempted from overtime. And so obviously that second thing is a lot trickier to identify than the first thing. And so this guy being an account manager and a sales manager makes me wonder if he actually does qualify for overtime, because presumably he would be making more than $50,000 in a year. And if he's an account manager and a sales manager, he could have enough like executive responsibilities that he would be exempt from the Fair Labor Standards Act. But I don't know, I don't know. He's got a lawyer representing him, and presumably these law firms don't take cases for like no reason. So I suppose we'll see, read the Chattanooga Times Free Press for updates. Jordan Barab has a really good article about workplace heat and the toll of heat injuries, and like the things that you don't think of that heat can contribute to as far as an unsafe working, as far as unsafe working conditions, right? So, most people know if it's hot, you might have a heat stroke. It might lead to kidney disease or other chronic health conditions, right? But Jordan has this article. The article is titled Workplace Heat, The Hidden Toll of Injuries. It's on his website, jordanbarab.com/confined space. Friend of the show, Jordan Barab, former OSHA official. He's analyzing a new study out of Harvard titled A Nationwide Analysis of Heat and Workplace Injuries, published on October 6th in the journal Environmental Health, that shows that high heat contributes to at least 28,000 excess workplace injuries per year. Slips, trips, and falls, as well as cuts and other traumatic injuries. And so that's interesting. There's somebody quoted in the article saying that it's very clear that heat causes more than simply heat illness and, unfortunately, heat fatalities, but it also causes thousands of injuries every year. When you're working in heat, you much more easily make mistakes. And so he talks about why high heat causes more work-related injuries. Studies have shown that elevated temperatures can impair hand-eye coordination, cause postural instability, lead to muscular fatigue, and reduce physical reaction times. Cognitive effects of heat include reduced attention memory, information processing, and overall judgment. Put together, physiological and cognitive impairments increase the risk of workplace injuries, few of which are officially classified as heat injuries. And so that's a really interesting thing, and another reason that stronger workplace heat standards are needed, which the Biden administration was trying to push through, and the Trump administration has stopped. And so no doubt there are going to be people who are killed in the year of our Lord 2025 because the Trump administration paused the OSHA heat standard from the Biden administration. And it didn't have to be that way, right? There are going to be people who die this year that didn't have to die because we didn't institute that workplace heat safety rule. So another really good article to check out from Jordan Barab. As always, he does really good stuff. And then I've got some Union Buster stuff for you. This segment of Boss Watch is Union Busters. It covers national updates, and it is sponsored by Labor Lab. Labor Lab is an employer watchdog organization dedicated to safeguarding the right to organize through unions, collective bargaining, and mutual aid. They do this by combing through reports that Union Busters are required to file with the Department of Labor. So last week, we had several filings. One from Specs Family Partners. We just talked to a guy who was organizing there a couple of weeks ago. They hired this guy, Justin Shoemaker, for $3,000 a day, $2,800 a day, to try to stop people from organizing. Specs Family Partners is like a wine and liquor store. United Site Services in Massachusetts hired the Crossroads Group labor relations consultants for $475 an hour. Northwell Health in New York also hired the same group for $450 an hour. Northwest Fiber in Washington State hired Davis, Grimm, Payne, and Mara for $400 an hour. And in addition, we had a couple of amendments with particularly the Crossroads Labor Relations Group changing their compensation rate from $450 an hour to $475 an hour. These are people that are getting hundreds of dollars an hour to try to persuade workers that they don't need a union, so that to keep workers from getting a $5 an hour raise, they're paying these people hundreds of dollars an hour. Really gross. Really gross. And just as a reminder, due to a lack of enforcement, a lot of these consultants, a lot of these union busters will disregard the law and fail to report their activities. Like, they have to report these activities to the Department of Labor, but there's been a lack of enforcement for years, and especially under the Trump administration, obviously, there's a lack of enforcement. And so some of these consultants are going to disregard the law, and they're not going to report it, or they're going to report it late. Like, a lot of times we see a union election happen, and then the union busters don't file all of their paperwork until after the election is over. The whole thing about filing this paperwork is that workers are supposed to have the knowledge about who is getting paid and how much money they're getting paid to persuade them of against unionization. And so obviously, if you don't file the paperwork until after the election, then it defeats the purpose of the law. But they do that all the time. And it's like, actually, you could be charged criminally and civilly for violating the law in that way. But, the federal government never does that. So because there is such a lack of enforcement, it's crucial for organizers and workers to report suspected persuader activity to the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Labor Management Standards. So if you suspect one of these union busting consultants are in your workplace, then you can reach out to Labor Lab and they will help you file that report. You can contact Labor Lab at contact@laborlab.us. Contact@laborlab.us. And if you do that, let them know you heard about them on the Valley Labor Report, obviously, right? You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.